How's it going, everyone? Nice to see you all here. It's dolltr or Claire, which is my real name that I go by when I teach at 343. But so nice to see everyone. Welcome to the very first episode, if you will, I guess, of 343 TV. We're so excited at 343 Labs to be sharing this with all of you. And just so we're all on the same page, 343 Labs is a school that is based in New York City. When we're usually not in quarantine, we are working in person with other people, and we're sharing information about how to start making music, mostly with Ableton Live because we are an Ableton Certified Training Center, woo! And we're able to lots of puns today, share lots of different kinds of ways that you can start making music, that you can build your production skills, build your electronic music making skills in general. And 343 Labs, 343 TV is going to be our way of doing that and sharing more stuff with all of you. And we're also super excited that for today's very first episode, we're going to be doing a giveaway, and we're going to be giving away not this in particular, but we're going to be giving away the Sensel Morph, which is a controller that's probably one of my favorites at the moment, and it's made by the lovely people at Sensel. I see the people in Sensel in the chat. Hello, Sensel, and hello, Mr. Sensel, if Mr. Sensel is the person behind the chat today. But we are giving away the Music Makers Bundle by Sensel. And what is the Music Makers Bundle? It consists of a couple of things. And of course, one of them is the Morph controller itself, but also some overlays that come with the Morph. And I'm actually going to be using the Morph today when I show you a little bit of what I'm doing. But it comes with several overlays, including this really neat music production one that you could use. It also has some drum overlay stuff, and if anything looks unclear to you at the moment, no worries, because I am going to demonstrate a little bit of how all of these work. But yeah, you got some really neat things that you can put on this particular controller and use it in your production workflow. And if you know me in real life, it is Mr. Sensel. If you do know me in real life, you'll know that I'm a big fan of controllers that are lightweight and easily portable and Claire-sized. I joke about that a lot. But yeah, the Morph is definitely Claire-sized. And also, you can go to the store and buy the Sensel online store and buy this really neat case to put all of your overlays and all of your cables and stuff, which I have done. So you can also head over to the Sensel store and check a couple of their things out. But in the meantime, everyone, again, welcome to 343 TV. Today, I'm going to be doing the very first episode of my Tips and Tricks series that we're going to be doing every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time in the US. And I'm going to be sharing with you lots of tips and tricks that I use when I'm making music as dolltr in Ableton Live. So for this very first episode today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a getting started in live type of thing. And for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about things like producing songs with live, specifically like if you're a songwriter and if you've written a song, how you would go about producing that in live. Or if you are a performer and you want to start using live in your performances, how to integrate that as well. So over here on my screen, we have the amazing Ableton Live 10 software. Maybe one thing that you might notice off the bat is that my live looks purple, which is probably one of my favorite parts about live. It's actually very highly customizable. And maybe you're used to kind of seeing the gray version of live if you've used live before. Or actually in the chat, I see a lot of interesting activity. Is anyone a live user in the chat? I'm going to also head over to the chat and say, does anyone use live already? And there's always some kind of weird delay in whenever you're streaming and whenever you're looking at the chat and stuff. So I'll just wait around for a tiny little bit. But I hope everyone's having a good Monday so far. I know I'm having a great start to my week, and I think it'll be a lovely month, actually. It's a good start to the month because it's the 1st of June. Crazy. Time passes so quickly. But yeah, does anyone use live already? We'd love to hear from all of you. And also, while we are, yay, cool. Cole is using live. Dave Freeman's using live. Yeah, I love how Dave's name already has the word live in it. That's amazing. Yay, Ian, Minato, Ronaldo. Yay, Eugene, great. So while we're also here and while I'm asking the chat a bunch of questions, I would also love to introduce you to Thomas from 343 Labs, who's behind the scenes helping us run things. So if you are, Timothy, yeah, setting it to a maroon. So yeah, if you would like to enter the giveaway, I think Thomas from 343 Labs might be putting in some additional information into the chat. So Thomas, if you could help me with that, that would be amazing. And Nefertiti, no problem. If you've never used it, then you're in the right place. I'm going to show you exactly how to use Ableton Live with a couple of, controllerism type things, just to put everyone on the same page. I am an instructor at 343 Labs. I'm also an Ableton Certified Trainer. And I love using Live a lot for performance as well as production, although I am a bit inside, a little bit of a Logic fangirl as well. But yeah, let's see if we can learn the ropes. Ooh, iOS music beginner. Hi, yeah, welcome. Welcome to the chat. Just saw a lot of people jump in. So welcome to everyone who's tuning in. Let's see if we can jump over into Live over here. And one thing that you might notice is off the bat, and a lot of times when we're dealing with Live, you'll open up like a default project and it'll show up in this view where you see lots of columns. And I was joking with one of my younger students. I work a lot with kids as well. And they were like, what is this giant Excel sheet? And that's, in a way, that's an interesting way of thinking about Live, right? Because we're playing with all of these different kinds of elements. And in the way, because it's so combinational, a lot of it does look like an Excel sheet. And it could even be said to be modular in a way. Or maybe that's for Bitwig, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But this might be the default view that you see in Live. And this is called session view. I think what defines a lot of Live is that it has these two different views. Mainly we're talking about session view, which is this particular view that will open up when you have the default Live template and it shows up in different columns. If you press tab on your computer keyboard though, so for example, right now I'm going to press tab over here, you'll switch over to a view that perhaps looks a little bit more familiar to you if you have used some kind of other digital audio workstation before, say Logic or Pro Tools. And this is called arrangement view. So again, session view in Live and arrangement view in Live. And I think that's really what defines Live. Some people also forget about this, and I'll just mention it in case anyone's confused. But anytime that I say Live in this particular stream, everybody, I am talking about the software Ableton Live. People often call it Ableton, and maybe this is where my a little bit of an anal teacher persona comes in. But Ableton is the company. Live is the software. So sorry for making everybody go through all of this again. If you've tuned into a lot of my streams on my own YouTube channel also, Ableton is the company, Live is the software. So back to Live. Let's see if we can get started. Oftentimes when I'm creating a beat in Live or when I'm making music in Live, I really share with people that any kind of music that you listen to really just consists of 4 parts. 4 pillars of music in a way. And people have different ways of approaching this, but I generally think of it as drums, bass, harmony or chords, and melody. And sometimes the melody could be vocals even. So for example, I'm a vocalist too. I'm not trained as a vocalist, but I like singing even though I'm bad at it. So the vocals in a lot of my productions are taking the melody part. Chords could be something like piano or guitar. I have my guitar right over here. Or it could be something that you might play with the, let's say, you might play with the piano overlay that might come with the morph. You could play chords on that. And then bass would be something like, a real bass. I also have my bass over here, like a bass guitar or anything that's really in lower frequencies that you might put into your track. And a lot of time, I think that's what is very definitive for a lot of electronic music. For example, if you were to go to a venue or a live performance venue, I know we can't go in and out anywhere now because we're all in quarantine. You might have some low frequency experiences that you'll get from subs, bass, things like that. And then of course you'll have drums. And it's cool that Stencil has, 2 overlays for drums in a way. There's this actual overlay that you can hit with drumsticks if you wanted to. And then there's another overlay that perhaps looks a bit more familiar to people who are, have seen the MPC style format of pads before. You got a 4x4 grid of 16 pads. So let's see if we can actually get started there. I'd love to start off with some drums. So over here in Live, I'm going to head over to the left-hand side of Live to the section of Live that's called the browser. And I like to think of the browser in Live as almost the brain of Live. That's really where we're going to get all our sounds. And if we scroll down to a category in Live that's called drums, so over there I've highlighted drums, we get a bunch of options for different kinds of drum kits that we can potentially use in our journey of creating this musical production. So let's see if we can scroll through a couple of these. Ooh, bunch of hats. Ooh, yeah. Very cool. So I got a bunch of all of these kits, and as you can hear, when I click on each of them, they're giving me a bit of a preview, which is neat. Cool. So maybe I'll just start off with something a little bit more traditional, if you will. I've got an 808 chord kit selected over here. And what I'm going to do is click on this 808 chord kit and drag it and drop it onto my MIDI track. Let's give it a second. Great. So now here it is loaded up. And I dragged it onto this very first track that was initially orange, a light orange. What I might try to do also, and this is maybe a tip, a doll tip, if you will, is I try to color code a lot of my different things that I incorporate into a production. So for example, for this chord kit, usually when I think of drums, I think of them as orange or brown. It's a little bit of a color that I associate with it. So I'm going to right click over here on the name of this particular drum track and let's color it an orangey brown. So there it is. And I'm also going to rename this particular track. If you're on a PC, anything that you want to rename, you can press on Control R. And if you're on a Mac, it's going to be Command R. So because I'm on a Mac, I'm going to press Command R and let's call this drums. Great. Now what I want to do is make sure that I have my Stencil morph connected because I think I'd like to play in some drums like with my controller. So I'm going to connect my morph and you can see that over here it's connected via the USB cable that came with it. And I'm also going to put the music production overlay on top of the morph. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but it fits so well. It's so nice. And right now, I'm going to be able to start using the overlay in order to put some sounds in. But one thing that I do want to do before I proceed with that is make sure that this particular drums track is record armed. To arm something in Ableton Live is essentially to prepare that track and say, okay, I'm ready to take in some kind of information, MIDI information, and be ready to record it. So the way that we do that is we go over to the bottom of this particular column, this particular track that I have over here in my big Ableton Live Excel sheet, and we're going to press on this circular button, or circular icon rather, it's a square button, at the bottom of this particular track, and this arms that track. Now, if I were to press on the pads of the morph, I can get all of these different kinds of sounds. I've got a kick drum over here. I'm also going to increase the volume of the drums. Yeah, much better. I'm also going to pop over to the chat for a second and see if anyone's hanging out over there. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, thank you so much, Thomas, for putting that really helpful information into the chat. So everyone, if you are interested in finding out more about the giveaway, and take a look in the chat, and we'll see what happens, and we'll be able to help you out. And thanks everyone for tuning in also. Really appreciate it. Yes, iOS Music Beginner. It is definitely a very beautiful device, and you could win it for tuning in today. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Let's head back over into live. Great. So one thing that maybe I want to do is find out what kind of sounds that I have over here. I've got, like I said, the kick drum. Cool. I've got a clap over there. A closed hi-hat. Got an open hi-hat there. And cool. One thing that I do want to do in particular with this kick is perhaps make it a little bit louder. But the other things, I do want to make them a little bit softer. So here's a neat trick, that a neat doll trick this time, that I try to do with a lot of my drum sounds. So I'll often have my kick louder than the rest of my samples whenever I do drum programming. So one way I like to do it is to find the loudest part that I want to be that's not a kick. So for example, this clap is a pretty neat volume. I do like it. What I'll do is I'll find that particular volume in the drum rack over here. So for example, right now we're looking at my clap sample, my clap 808, and I can adjust this individual sample's volume. So I can say, for example, originally it was at -13. In the lower right-hand corner though, I can bring this volume up a little bit. So now it's very loud, and I don't necessarily want that, but I thought -13 was a good volume to have. And now, in this particular drum rack, in this cell with the clap, I can then right-click on the volume, and I'll have a bunch of options in this context menu that pops up. And one of them is copy value to siblings. What this will do is it will automatically make all of the other drum rack cells all be -13 decibels as well. So it is going to make all of the drum rack cells that same volume. So I'm going to press that, copy value to siblings, and now every single other part is all going to be -13 decibels. Except the kick though, because I do want to go into the kick, and like I said, I usually make it a little louder. So let's see if we can find a good volume for the kick. maybe about -7 is a good one. So let's keep it over there. And now I'm ready to jam out a little bit, find a couple of patterns that I like that I could maybe, do a couple of things again as well. So let's also see. Let's pop over to the chat and see what's happening. Ah, cool. Welcome to Pekka. Yeah, absolutely. I do know that you can't see my cursor, so that's why I'm actually telling you where these devices are. But thanks for your input. Now back to live. Let's see if I can play some tunes in, or a beat in first. Let's see. Cool. So I just did all of that. And here's another neat trick that I like to use whenever I'm programming in some different kinds of beats. So you'll notice that just now I played in all of those drums, but I wasn't actually recording. That said, I do think I would like to recall what I just did. So over here on the top bar of Ableton Live, next to all of the shapes that you see at the top, we see like a triangle, a square, a type of circle, which we're going to touch on later. We see also a particular button that looks a little bit like a square, almost like one of those like guidelines that maybe when you're how do I describe this? When you're taking a photo, and if you ever clicked on a specific spot in like your camera or tried to focus in on a certain point, you kind of see this logo, this little icon a little bit like an outline. So it's this over here, and this particular button is called the capture button Ableton Live. So let's see what happens if I press capture. Cool. So I'm going to lower the volume of live and I'll walk you through a couple of things. What just happened? Basically, the entire time that I was playing that drum beat, Ableton Live was listening to what I was doing, and it essentially said, okay, Claire is playing in this thing. Let's see if we can detect the things that she's been playing and capture it, essentially. One thing you might also notice is that Live has automatically detected a tempo for me. Right now, I'm at 162.5 beats per minute. So that's going to be in the top left-hand corner. That's the number that I'm reading out. If you look at the Live interface on the top left, there's usually a little box with numbers, and that's going to tell you how fast or how slow a particular beat that you're working on is, or a particular production that you're working on is. So it's telling me that this beat I played it in at 162.5 beats per minute. One thing that might also be cool to do, and I'm going to temporarily pause this for a second, is maybe tighten up the timing a little bit, because my timing is obviously not perfect, which is very normal, especially sometimes when I don't have a click. Personally, I like having some kind of metronome to play along to if I'm ever playing along some kinds of drums. But that said, I think we could try to tighten this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is come over here to the MIDI note editor in the bottom section of Ableton Live. And it's this little part over here with all of these little additional smaller cells that you see. So like an Excel sheet within the Excel sheet in a way. And I'm going to click in anywhere in the MIDI note editor and do a keyboard command that's Control-A on a PC or Command-A on a Mac. So I'm going to do Command-A on a Mac, and it's selected all of my MIDI notes that I essentially played in from the morph just now. And what I'm going to do is quantize these particular things. Quantization is a term that we use to refer to snapping certain things to a specific division that we want to. So usually when you hear someone say, I'm going to quantize these MIDI notes, it means that we are moving all of these MIDI notes onto a specific division of the grid just to make things a little bit tighter in timing. So here is the original MIDI clip that I played in before quantization. And there are a little bit of, there are a couple of, inconsistencies, which is all right. But let's tighten this up a little bit. And I'm going to do that by pressing Command Shift U. Oh, I can't do that. Why can I do that? Let's try doing that. Oh, no, it did work. Great. Did it? No, there it is. Cool. So once I've done Command Shift U, I'm able to, I just realized you actually can't see it either. But it's going to let me change a couple of quantization settings. And once I've done that, I'll be able to play back a quantized version of the drums for you. So. and now they're all nice and snapped to a 16th note division. So that's pretty neat. I'm going to take a second and pop over to the chat again. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you all stopping by. We're going to be able to share lots of really neat tips and tricks today with Ableton Live specifically. Oh, hello, Loic. Great to see you too. Thanks so much for tuning in. And yeah. Monado, yeah, I think for the giveaway, you are in the right place. So you should be able to click on the link below with 343 Labs posted, which is from Thomas at 343 Labs. Yay, Thomas, great. So let's head back over into live right now. Got all these windows. Appreciate everyone's patience of that. But yeah, let me take a listen to the clip that I had. And so a couple of things. The first thing being, maybe I didn't actually want to, use that snare that I was able that I played in just now. I played in this snare on my 808 kit. And I do like snares, but maybe I would have preferred a clap. So one easy way to do this is in the MIDI note editor, if it's your first time using Live, you'll be able to select these notes by clicking and dragging anywhere inside the MIDI note editor. And you can then start clicking on these individual notes and moving them around to different sounds. So let's see what happens if we actually move it to maybe a sound that's not the clap first so that we can hear it. Got a clave over there. Let's move it to the clap. There we go. We could even move it using our arrow keys on our computer keyboard. So we can also, right now I'm pressing the up and down arrow keys on my computer keyboards, moving them left and right. Woo! There we go. But now, here's our clap. Cool. And of course, instead of just playing things in, we can also manually input MIDI notes into Live in a couple of ways. One of them being double clicking. So for example, if I wanted to maybe put in an extra, let's see. Let's put in a rim shot at the end over here. Maybe a double one. I'm just double clicking on these little cells that I have over here. And now they should be in once we get to the end of this loop. Little soft. Maybe let's make it the clave instead. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, that's one way to do it. And of course, it's easy enough in Live that if you don't like anything, you can totally delete it. So I could just click on something and get rid of it by pressing the backspace key on my computer keyboard. So that's one way that we could go about doing different kinds of playing things into Live if we have controllers, or we could even manually program in different kinds of sounds. And I'm going to show you a tip, if you will, for creating different kinds of drum loops very quickly. And this is something that I usually refer to in a lot of my classes as extraction. So like I mentioned, I teach a lot of the classes at 343 Labs involving Ableton Live for beginners and just starting out. And one thing that I love sharing about is how quick it is to be able to create variations of drum beats. So let's do this together. I'm going to rename this very first drum clip. If you recall that keyboard command that I mentioned at the start of our stream, it was Command R on a Mac or Control R on a PC. So I'm going to hit Command R and I'm going to call this clip at the moment full. So now I've got my MIDI clip in session view named, which is great. But I'm going to make a duplicate of this clip. And what I'm going to do is press Command D if I'm on a Mac or Control D if I'm on a PC. So I'm going to press Command D. And boom, we've got a second clip that appears immediately below the first clip that we were using. To this second clip, though, I do want to modify it a little bit because at the moment I think it would make less sense for me to have two of the exact same clip. It might be more useful to instead have different variations. So in this particular clip, let's get rid of all of the hi-hats in this clip. And I'm going to do that a very quick way by pressing on this little black box that's next to the hi-hat's name in the MIDI note editor. So if you look at the MIDI note editor, I know that it's a little hard to see because you can't see my cursor, and that's a little bit of a shortcoming of the Mac operating system in general whenever you're streaming. But you should be able to see all of these like hi-hats happening very frequently. And a hi-hat is that t-t-t-t sound. So we see all of these happening very quickly in succession. And in this same row, there's a black box. And then next to that black box, it says hi-hat closed 808, which is the name of this particular sound. So I'm going to click on this box and I'm going to press backspace. And now in the second clip that I have, I've just got a kick and a clap and maybe an extra clave at the end. So I'm going to call this clip, I'm going to rename it and call it kick clap. And I'm also going to get rid of that clave. Cool. So let's do one more variation of this and let us duplicate the clip again. So Command D or Control D. Now I've got 2 of this. And maybe in this very first one, I just want the kick. So I'm going to delete all of my claps by clicking on the black box that's next to the clap 808 name. And going to press backspace. So now I've got this third clip and it's just kick. And we can switch between all of these different clips. So now we've got kick and clap. And there's the full thing. Now, one thing you might also be wondering is, okay, I've got all of these clips in a certain order, but whenever I was pressing any of these buttons, I could only play one at a time. And that's actually an interesting feature to be mindful of. Whenever you're working in Ableton Live in this particular view, in session view, you can only have each track or each column have one active playing clip at a time. And that's something important that hopefully will fall into place a little bit later as we start going about the different other parts of music production that we have. But at this stage, I'm going to pop over into the chat again and see if there are any questions so far. Oh, yay! Hi! Welcome everyone who just tuned in. Appreciate it. Yay! Stay tuned. We're going to have a giveaway. I mean, obviously, I hope you do know about the giveaway. I'm very excited for the giveaway, and I love Stencil. So let's head back over here into Live. What I want to do now is think of my second component. So I had, the drums, I was talking just now about the 4 pillars of production that I like to think about: drums, bass, chords, and melody. So maybe let's see now if we can move on to some bass. And before I actually proceed, I'm going to ask the chat for a little bit of help. Could I get a letter, any letter, from A to G? So in the alphabet, there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If somebody could give me a letter from A to G, that would be amazing. And I'm going to wait for the letter to come up. Any kind of letter between A to G. While I'm waiting for the letter suggestions to come, let us switch out an overlay. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'll be doing over here. And I'm going to remove this overlay from the morph. And yeah, just now someone, I think Ian made a comment about like how wiggly these are. And yeah, I like them. It's like wiggle the overlays. I work a lot with kids with the morph specifically also, and they just love it. It's just like all day playing with the overlays. The great thing about this also, and I'm going to take a quick moment to pause. The great thing about these overlays, which I learned from Mr. Stencil, was that you can wash them. How cool is that? Be clean. Be clean while making music. Amazing. And it matters a lot, especially when you're, if you're sharing gear with anybody in the same space, or if you're quarantining with maybe another music maker and you're both touching the same controllers at the same time. You can wash this. Like, how cool is that? So I'm going to put the piano overlay onto the morph now, and it's all good and set up. And oh my gosh, thank you so much for all the letters. That was very quick. We'll take Diana's first suggestion, which is D. Thank you for that, Diana. So let's do something in D minor today. Let's make a little loop-based type of production in D minor. So I'm going to hit, and a lot of people did suggest D. So thanks everyone for suggesting D minor. Let's head back over here. And in this second MIDI track, let's make it our bass track. So I'm going to rename this track bass by pressing Command R or Control R if I were on a PC. And let's also recolor it blue. For me, basses are kind of blue. Maybe it's because they both start with B, or like dark blue is like a deeper color. I don't know. But let's head over back into Live's browser and let's find a bass sound. So if I go over into the sounds category in Live's browser, you'll notice that instead of having just a couple of drums, I have an entire selection of other different instruments that I can use, and they're all categorized by type. So I have things like bass, brass. If anyone plays the trumpet or things like that, you'll find instruments there that might emulate that. Got things like experimental things, mallets, orchestral stuff, pads, piano and keys, which we'll revisit later perhaps. We got synth keys, synth lead, vintage stuff. The vintage category is actually one of my favorites. I think there's a lot of cool sounds in there. And voices, so lots of different kinds of options. But for now, let's head back over to our bass category. So we're going to scroll back up and click on this little disclosure triangle to pop up all of these really extensive bass presets, and there's a lot of them. I'm going to maybe click on, see that. Ooh, that's pretty nice, actually. And you can also use your up and down arrow keys to scroll in between these different options. So, ooh, cool. I'm always kind of like a fan of bass house type sounds, like houseier things, maybe FM synthesizers a little bit. So I'm going to click on this preset and I'm going to drag it onto my dark blue bass track. And boom, there it is. There is our bass housey track. Now, if I wanted to play this with the Morph or with any controller really, I would again need to make sure that it was armed. So I'm going to click on the record arm button at the bottom of this bass track. And I'm also going to unrecord arm the drums. Otherwise, we will be playing two things at the same time. So let's unrecord arm that. And now on this bass track, let's decrease the volume a little bit so that I don't kill everybody's ears. And let's see if we got that. Or, yay. Ooh, cool. So we have some interesting things. Maybe one thing that you might notice and that I mentioned before just now is that bass sounds are usually kind of low. So it would be in our best interest in a way before we start program to make sure that we're in the right range of notes. And that's something that we call octaves in music production. So usually higher octaves refer to a higher note range, and lower octaves, usually when we use the term lower octaves, it means we're playing in a lower range. So I'm going to click on the Morph over here, and on the piano overlay I can actually scroll between higher and lower octaves. So I'm going to do that, and now we should have a much lower octave, I think. Yeah, there we go. Great. One thing you might also notice is that for the Morph in particular, I'm kind of holding it, and I'm not sure if anyone had sensitive enough ears that caught this just now, but as I was clicking around with all of these different things, I just did that. But you can actually slide between different notes. So let's say if I were playing this low bass note, which is a low C, and I wanted to, I could slide between all of these different notes and then slide back down to it. That's one thing that I love a lot about the Morph in general, just being able to play things really flexibly, and you can even wiggle things around, so you can make things a little bit wobbly, which is cool. So let's see if we can put in some kind of bass pattern. What I would like to do for this particular section of what we're doing is play the full drum clip that I had and see if I can play along to it. And again, we're going to be doing something in D minor, so let's see what we can get. Let's play the full drum clip. Cool. Ooh. Cool. So I'm going to explain exactly what I just did, everyone. That happened quite quickly. So let's see if we can reverse engineer that a little bit. One thing you might notice is that whenever you have a track record armed in Ableton Live, instead of there being, little squares like you might see in a couple of these other tracks, the icon in each of these Excel sheet cells becomes a circle, and that means you're ready to record some kind of clip into it. And that's something that I skimmed over a little bit just now when I was talking about the drums. But we are also in a position to start recording different things that repeat. So that's pretty cool in session view. You can see that if I were to just let this bass clip play, and let's see if we can do that now. We can see the time move across in the clip, and it's going to start repeating itself. And this is a loop. So that's great. Usually when we think about Ableton Live, also a lot of people say, oh, you should use Live for looping. So that's kind of how you do it in a way. I'm going to go deeper into it in a couple of my future streams where I talk about using Live for performance in particular. But yeah, that's definitely one way that you can do it. And in order to start and stop a loop, the way that you would do that is to click on a particular circle to record the loop in. So let's actually try to do that now. And I'm just going to arbitrarily play some things in, and we'll see what we get. And now that my loop is done, that amazing bass loop, I'm going to click on the red triangle again, and my amazing bass loop is playing back to me. So that's essentially what I just did. I will delete this though, so I'm going to click on this clip and press backspace to get rid of it. And let's work with our original bass clip that we had over here. Now you might notice that when I was recording this loop, I pressed the stop button a little bit later than I finished playing my loop. But one thing that I can do is, of course, change the length of this loop. So I played this 4-bar bass riff on this particular instrument. And if I want to make sure that I am just looping 4 bars, I can head over into the MIDI note editor and I can change the loop bracket. So over here you see me, dragging this thing back and forth by clicking on it and, moving things left or right. If I wanted to, I could make things very long and I could make it an 8-bar loop. But let's just keep it to 4 bars right now. One thing that I'll also do is quantize this. So a little bit of revision for everybody, but we can select all the notes that we want to quantize by pressing Command A and then pressing Command U if we're on a Mac, or it's going to be Control A and Control U if you're on a PC. That said, I do want to make sure that I am seeing all of my notes. So maybe this is a little bit of a dull tip also, but a really great way to do that is on the left-hand side of the MIDI note editor where you see all of the note names, so like C1, C2, C3. If you're hovering over a certain section, you may see a magnifying glass. And when you double click on that magnifying glass, it's going to snap all of the notes in a particular clip to fill up the MIDI note editor. So you get a comprehensive view of everything that you just played in versus just now is a little bit more zoomed out, if you recall. So yeah, that's a really great way of making sure that you've got everything that you want to see in your particular selection. And now that I've done that, I'm going to press Command A or Control A. And then I'm going to press Command U to quantize. And let's listen back to our bass. Oh dear, what just happened? Amazing. Cool. So some of these actually did get quantized a little bit incorrectly, perhaps because my timing was that awful. So let's see if we can just move them a little bit manually and see what happens. And let's play them alongside the drums for reference. So. Cool. Great. So we got this bass loop going. Amazing. Now, I'm going to pop over back into the chat and yeah, so let's see. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the kids really love the textural features. This really does feel very nice. I think I'm just fanning it. Oh, Timothy, that's interesting. You mentioned that you were a music therapist, and yeah, totally. I think the Sensor Morph definitely works really well for that. I work with a couple of kids who also have disabilities, and they really enjoy playing with it. And actually, they do like playing with this particular overlay of the Morph a lot. It's not included in the Music Makers bundle, but this is probably my personal favorite overlay, and it's the Buchla overlay. So if anyone's also a fan of synthesis, you might be familiar with Buchla, and this was a collaboration between Buchla and Sensel. It's their Thunder overlay. Maybe some of that in my performance stream a couple of weeks from now, perhaps. Oh, welcome, Synths for Kids. Oh, hello. Greetings. Yeah, absolutely. Let's head back over into live and let's see if we can finish this up. So like I mentioned, we have drums, bass. The third part that we'll try to introduce now is a chord part, I think. So let's see if we can also do a little bit of cleanup. Today we're not going to cover audio in Ableton Live, although that's a really important part of production as well. And it's something that I use a lot when I'm producing, like I said, because I also do vocals. But for today, we're just going to get rid of these 2 tracks. So, and the great thing is we can always put them back later. So that's always great. You can always undo things. You can always recreate tracks, which is neat. So let's click on these 2 tracks and let's delete them by pressing backspace. Bye. Now, let's create some chords parts. So maybe this is also another of those tricks. I know a lot of people who use Live, they sometimes create MIDI tracks before actually creating the instruments. But one thing that you can do is directly pull over patches from the browser into Live in this section over here that says drop files and devices here. So if you follow the instructions, you can actually get a lot of mileage out of Live. Sometimes we forget to read things. I'm also very guilty of that sometimes, except when it comes to manuals. And that's a joke that maybe some people will know about me. I have a podcast I run that's called RTFM, which stands for Read the Friendly Manual. And I read the Ableton Live manual in that podcast. But back to our production stuff. Let's find a good patch for creating some, maybe some chordal synth parts. So to that end, let's look at the synth keys category and see if we can find anything that excites us. Oh. Ooh, maybe that. So I'm going to click on this preset over here, and let's drag it and drop it in the drop files and devices here. So let's see if we can click and drag. Yeah, there's our chords track. So what I'm also going to do now is I will keep using the piano overlay for this. I do quite like it. But I'm going to unarm the bass track and arm the new synth keys track, which now is able to let me play different kinds of things on it. You might also remember that we're in a lower range, so let's increase the octave over here on the morph. Much nicer. And let's also bring this volume down a little bit so that I'm not killing everybody's ears. Please protect your ears, everyone. Some people always, listen to music really loudly, but you need to protect your ears. You only have one pair of them. You only have two in that one pair. So it's scarcity, very much so. But let's head back over here. And as usual, I'm going to rename and recolor this properly. So Command R, and I'm going to call this chords for now. And let's also recolor this a purple, because sounds to me like a purple kind of sound in a way. So yeah, let's get our bass and our drum loops going, and let's play some chords, record some chords in. One way that you can do this in live and session view is to not just play the individual clips, which we use the word launch to refer to that. So not just launching clips, but launching what we call a scene. And any scene in Ableton Live is an entire row of clips. So I'm going to press on the play button in the master track that's all the way on the right-hand side of Live. So for me in particular, mine's colored in light blue, and that's one thing that I associate with the master track a lot. Maybe it's just my workflow by now. But in this master track, you can see also kind of a similar layout to the different other Excel sheet cells that we've seen in Live too. So if you press on any of these, you'll be able to play any clip in that row. Likewise, if you launched a different scene, you would play only the clips in that particular scene. But let's play the bass and full drum clips, and maybe think of a chord part that we can add. Cool. I've also noticed that this particular sound, maybe it's just my ears, but I do think it's a little bit out of tune, a little bit detuned. Let's see if we can maybe find another sound. I don't know. Let's do the classic Juno wave for now. So again, this is interesting to note too. If you ever do want to replace a sound on an existing track, you can just grab another sound or another preset. You can click and drag and drop it over, and it's going to immediately replace that sound. So here we go. Yeah, cool. There's our Juno. Amazing. So let's record some stuff. Cool. So let's see what we got. Yeah, cool. So there's my entire loop that I played. It was an 8-bar loop. Let's also quantize this. So Command U, just to tighten things up a little bit. Cool. So here's a couple of different kinds of things that you can do with this sound. One thing that I would like this sound to do in a way is for it to really be stretched out. And you'll notice that because of the way I played the sound, there's a couple of gaps in between these sounds. So one thing that I like to do sometimes is use a feature that's called legato. So that's going to be in the MIDI note editor. On the left-hand side, there's a section over here that says notes. And this notes box, if you will, is really containing any kind of control that we want to use to affect notes. So I'm wondering what will happen if I maybe select these first notes over here. So let me click and drag over those. And if I press legato, ooh, you might notice that they, instead of being separated, they snapped to when the start of the next set of notes were. So just to illustrate that again, maybe I'll make these selected notes super short. And by clicking on all of them and pressing legato in the notes box on the left, press legato, and boom, they've all stretched out. So that's something that I do occasionally to make sure that I'm, you know, having notes that are fully the length of what I want them to be. So I'm also going to make, also going to make these ones legato. Let's do that. Cool. And for the last one, though, I do want it to be a little bit stretched out. So now let's listen back. Cool. So now you can see that it's all kind of, you know, tied in to one another. I'm going to get back to my chords in a second because they do sound a little bit static at the moment. Maybe there's something that we can do with it that I'm going to introduce to everyone later. But let's do our last pillar now. We've got our drums, we've got our bass, we've got our chords. Let's do some melody. So usually one category that I like to go to approach melodies is a sound category that's called synth lead. So let's see what we got over here. Let's listen to a couple of these sounds, and maybe I'll scroll to the bottom this time and work my way up for the many, many presets that are in here. You can see all of them. I'm just scrolling eternally. I feel like that's a lot of the time I'm just doing that live, scrolling through presets. That's pretty cute. I like it. New wave, strike me. So let's click on this preset and let's drag it over here. Now I do like this, and actually what I might want to do is save this for future reference. So this is another doll trick, if you will, or a doll tip. I think it's more of a tip than a trick. But yeah, one thing that you can do with any sound that you like in Live 10, and this is a special feature that came out in Live 10 onwards, is add them to a collection. So it's almost as if you're bookmarking certain sounds in Live in order for you to refer to them in a more easy way. So let's see if I can right-click on this sound in the browser, New Wave Strike Me. I'm going to right-click on it, and ooh, I have a bunch of colors that can show up. And I'm going to click on maybe this one over here, and now you might see that New Wave Strike Me has a little red dot next to it. And that means that I've saved it to a red collection. Now, what am I talking about? This mumbo jumbo about collections. If I were to head over to all the way to the left in the browser and scroll up, there are my collections. And collections are really great ways of tagging different kinds of sounds or different presets, things in your user library that you want to be able to access very easily. So if I were to head over to my faves collections now, which is my red one, I can see that New Wave Strike Me has popped up over there. And I have a couple of other different sounds there too. Got that bass trombone. Not sure if I intended to put that in my collection, but maybe I'll use it one day. We could potentially use it in this particular session too. But before we do that, let's also rename this particular melody track. Let's call it Melody. Oops, not being capital letters. Let's also arm it so that we're ready to record stuff using our morph and make things a little bit quieter. Cool. Let's see if we can play something short, but hopefully sweet. Here we go. That seemed all right, so let's get back in here. Ooh, goodness, I can hear myself like speaking lots of, cool. Let's see if we can get back into Live over here and look at my melody clip. And great, let's quantize this by selecting all of the notes. So Control A or Command A, and Control U or Command U. So here's what we got. Cool, and let's also make sure that this is a 4-bar loop. Great. Now, one thing that you might not have noticed, or maybe you're hearing it, but you didn't manage to see it, was that I did a little bit of touch-related types of things with this particular patch. And I'm going to solo the melody for you, which means that I'm going to only play the melody for you. And that's something that is happening in the bottom of any kind of track that you see. So there's like a little bit of an interesting sound change that happens. And that was done by putting a little bit more pressure on, you know, the morph at certain kinds of points in time. So that's, like I said, one thing that I really love about the morph is that you can make things touch sensitive and very responsive and even more expressive. So yeah, now we've got all of these up. We basically have some kind of beat that we could put together. So let's see if we can do a super short mini performance of this before we do a quick wrap up and talk about the giveaway again, because I know a lot of people are really excited about that. So let's stop everything and let's play this. Cool. So that was some quick effects on the end also. But yeah, that's a really fast way to get started in Ableton Live and be able to play around with different kinds of loops, different layers, 4 pillars of music production, drums, bass, chords, and melody. And yeah, and all done with the morph. I played all the different parts with one particular controller. So for that reason, it's often my choice to put in my backpack if I'm ever traveling somewhere when we're not in lockdown. so yeah, really excited to be able to have shared this with all of you in this quick hour. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And I'm going to pop over back to the chat. So let's see what we have. Do we have any information, Thomas, about the giveaway? I'm wondering if we do, and I'm also going to pop over here. Ooh, yay, cool. So Thomas has the giveaway winners ready. Everyone, if you are all ready, I hope that you are still tuned in. So yay, thanks, Thomas. We are ready to receive the winners. I'm also curious as to, while we wait, like, where are people tuning in from? Like, I'm tuning in from New York. And like I said, 343 Labs is based in New York, so we are mostly there. But yeah, I'm wondering where people are tuning in from while we're waiting for the giveaway stuff to come through. New York and maybe multiple people from New York. Or maybe while we're waiting for the giveaway winners, I'll also chat a little bit about things that we have planned. But basically, 343 TV is going to be running for all of June, everyone. So we're really excited to be doing that with all of you every day at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That is US time. We will be streaming. So for example, tomorrow we have some Techno Tuesday with the amazing John Selway. Yay, lots of New York. Yay, Ian from from Charlotte. Yay, Jersey, Chicago, Oregon. Ooh, nice, cool. Bulgaria, welcome. I told my dad that I would be streaming too. So if he's watching, he'd be watching from Singapore, or it might be like 2 a.m. for them. So I hope not, Dad. Good night. Yay, Brazil! Yay, Max! Berlin! Max is the co-founder of 343 Labs, everyone. And thanks, Max, for making this happen and having this idea for it. So I think we have our giveaway winners. Okay, cool. Let's see. Yay, cool. So if you're ready to hear the Sensal Music Makers Bundle winner, give us a little bit of a drum roll, or, oh my goodness, I need my drum stuff for this. We need a drum roll, and this is also why the morph is really good, because you can start doing things like this. Just play at my physical drum roll. But we have a winner for the clap, 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 for Dave Freeman. Dave Freeman has won the morph, and I'm going to type it into the chat. Congrats to Dave Freeman, who has won the morph bundle. I'm going to type this in. You have won. Oh my goodness, there is even like a drum type things. You have won the morph bundle. Yay! Oh, hello. Yes, James, who just joined the chat. Unfortunately, I think you might have missed the giveaway, but we'll be giving away lots of things. So if you tune in tomorrow, you might also be able to win something. But yeah, we have a bundle for, no, not bundle. We have yes, we do. We have a Music Makers bundle for Dave Freeman. So congrats, Dave. Yay. Congrats, Dave. I just entered that in the chat. We have one more thing to give away, one more thing to announce. We have second place for the giveaway. Do we have Jameson in the chat? Jameson has won the Ableton Live online workshop with us. So congratulations to Jameson as well if you are in the chat. I'm not sure if I saw Jameson comment. So Jameson, congratulations if you are here and you have won the workshop with us. And speaking of that, we have the giveaways and we have the classes. The giveaway is actually for my workshop. So I'm going to be teaching an Ableton Live workshop that's going to teach you a lot more about the basics of live and how to get started in live this weekend. So it's going to be this coming Saturday and Sunday. So it's going to be the 6th and the 7th of June. If you would like to sign up, please let us know at 343 Labs. We've got lots of different courses up and lots of things running. Let's see if, yeah, we do have upcoming classes like I mentioned. We have the workshop with me over the weekend, and then we have some intermediate Ableton Live classes starting on June 8th. That's going to be next Monday. And we also have summer intensives starting June 8th, July 6th, and August 3rd. So every month there's going to be a new Ableton Live summer intensive that's starting out. So do get in touch with us if you're interested in any of that. Again, congratulations to both Jameson and Dave. I hope that you will be enjoying your wins, particularly the Music Makers bundle. I'm really excited for you, Dave, to get this in your hands. And thank you again to the Sensel folks for sharing this with us and for creating this and even making it in the first place. Big shout out to Mr. Sensel for popping by in the chat. And I hope that forever becomes a running meme, if you will. But yay! Congratulations to Jameson, to Dave, who has won the overlays. Yay! These are all the ones that should be included in the Music Makers bundle, along with the morph itself. And of course, a really nice editor that comes with that will let you do many amazing things. So on that note, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate all of you being here and for sticking with us for the 1 hour. Please tune in tomorrow for some Techno Tuesdays with the amazing, legendary John Selway. You can check us out also for more classes, things like that at 343labs.com. So on that note, again, my name is Claire. I also go by dolltr as an artist, but mainly Claire if I'm teaching. I keep those personas very separate. So please don't call me dolltr if you're in my class. It was a little weird. I think some of my kids don't really understand that yet. So a lot of the time it's like Miss dolltr. No, it's Miss Claire. But yay, nice to see everyone again. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. It's been great sharing with all of you. I will see you soon. And this has been 343 TV. Bye.